Hey guys, Miss Shane again. It's Algebra 2, the third lesson in Chapter 6. This is about how can I find an exponential function. So I'm just going to do the first problem with you guys, and then we did the second problem in class together. But for these recorded lessons, I'm just going to do this first one to save some time. So in number 127, I'm going to outline how do we write an exponential function given 2 points on the graph. So these are the 2 points that were given. And so the example is Ryan has chickenpox, and he was told that the number of pockmarks on his body would grow exponentially until his body overcomes the illness. So exponential means that it's multiplying each time. So multiplying by a factor of maybe 2, 3, that's what we're going to figure out. So he found that he had 60 pockmarks on November 1st, and so that's what the 1, 60 represents. And by November 3rd, the number had grown to 135. And so that's what the 3, 135 represents. So the x-axis is going to represent the number of days, and the y-axis is going to represent the number of pockmarks that he has. And that's what you'll find in most situations. X usually represents the time, and y represents the dependent variable. All right, so we are going to write an equation. We're going to find the starting amount of pockmarks, which we're going to assume is October 31st, since the first day is November 1st. And we're going to find out what the multiplication factor is. All right, and so we're going to do this by making 2 equations, and we're going to solve it kind of like we did with solving a system of equations. It's just a little twist because they're exponentials instead of linear equations. All right, so I'm going to plug in the 3 for the x and 135 for the y in the first equation. All right, so my first equation is going to be 135 equals a times b, because we don't know those variables yet, and then x is 3. So we have that first equation. The second equation comes from our second point, our second xy point. So I'm going to plug in a 1 for the x and a 60 for the y in my second equation. So the second one is going to be 60 equals a times b, because we still don't know that, to the power of 1. So now that I have my 2 equations, I'm going to solve this like a system of equations. Since they're exponential, I can't just subtract them. I have to actually divide them. So the way I'm going to divide is put the bigger exponent on top. So I'm going to put the 135 equals AB3, that problem or that equation on top. And then I'm going to put the second equation on bottom. So that's a 60. So the second equation is 60 equals AB to the power of 1. And then we want to divide those. 135 divided by 60 is 2.25. A divided by A is 1, or cancels out. B3 divided by B1 would be B2. Remember, you have to subtract the exponents when you divide. Okay, final step is to solve for B. So that's pretty easy. We just have to square root to get rid of that exponent. If it had been a power 3, then we would have cubed root. Power 4 would have fourth root. All right, and so then this means that B equals, let me put that in my calculator real quick, 1.5. So it came out to be a whole decimal, 1.5. Okay, so that means it increases by about 50% each day. So we multiply by a factor of 1.5. So then we're going to find A. In order to find A, just like with solving system of equations, if you have x, in order to find y, you want to plug in what you have. So we're going to plug b into, and I usually go with the smaller number equation. So we're going to plug it into that second equation. So now we have 60 equals a times 1.5 to the power of 1. 1.5 to the power of 1 is just 1.5. So that's just 1.5 times a, still equals 60. So we want to get a by itself. All we do is divide 1.5 on both sides. And then I think we should get 40. Yeah, 60 divided by 1.5 is 40. Those cross out, so that leaves us with a. And so then our equation, remember we were trying to find the equation of those 2 points, exponential equation, is y equals that a, which is 40, times that b, which is 1.5, to the power of x. Okay, so for the equation, we plug in the a and the b that we found, and then we keep the x and the y the same, or we could have said f of x equals. Okay, so in the second part, we are going to figure out what day did Ryan get his first chickenpox mark. So if you remember, x represents time and y represents the pock marks. So we could reword this to what value of x do we get when y is equal to 1? So we're trying to figure out when he had just one pockmark, or his first one. All right, so our equation was y equals 40 times 1.5 to the power of x. So that's what we found in part A. We're going to plug in 1 to y. So it's going to be 1 equals 40 times 1.5 to the power of x. Okay, so I know that this is an exponential equation because the exponent is x. So this time, instead of using square roots or roots, I'm going to have to use logs to solve for x. All right, so first, what I want to do is try to get x by itself. I want to divide the 40 that's in front. I always want to divide that number in front, or if it's plus something in the end, you want to get rid of that. We just want a base and an exponent when we get to the logs, all right? So first we're going to divide the 40 on both sides. So that gets rid of it here. 1 divided by 40. I'm going to go ahead and change that to a decimal. That's about 0.025, or exactly 0.025. So now I'm just left with 1.5 to the power of x. So at this point, now I can put a log on both sides and then use the power property to move the x to the front of the exponent, or the log. So log x times log of 1.5 is what I can rewrite the right side as, and log of 0.025 stays the same. Okay, so then I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to divide the log of 1.5 on both sides. And now I have x by itself. So x is about, put this in my calculator real quick, log 0.025 divided by log of 1.5 is, we should get a negative number because we're trying to go backwards in time. So it's about -9. I'm going to round that to the nearest day. So about 9 days before Remember, our starting point was October 31st. So 9 days before October 31st, which would be about October 22nd, I think. So he got his first pockmark around October 22nd. All right, and so I'll have you guys do the rest of those notes problems on your own, but I just wanted to explain in this video how you would do at least one of these. All right, so don't forget to finish out your notes and practice problems. The exit ticket, also finish that on Schoology. Thanks, guys.